The Madman!
Hey, welcome to another Trump review. This one's gonna be quick, but it's gonna be more in depth because I think the odd/even thing is really interesting. Let's go ahead and start with the Shaman card that relies on even cost cards. And what they get is Merkspark Eel. 2 mana, 2/3, deal 2 damage, Battlecry. That's a pretty good card. I mean, to compare with how much this is normally costed at, I guess you would need to look at Blowgill Sniper, which is a 2 mana 2/1, deal 1 damage. So you're getting 2 more health and you're getting to deal 1 more damage. It's wild now, which is why I forgot it for a while. But Flame Juggler used to be around. This dealt 1 damage to a random enemy instead of being targetable. It was also 2 mana 2/3. It saw some play here and there. Now granted, dealing 2 damage to a single target is way better than dealing 1 damage to a random enemy. So in order to decide how good Merkspark Eel had and if it had potential, and disclaimer before I go into all of this, obviously there's a whole expansion in front of us, and not only that, there's not just one expansion in front of us, there's 3 expansions in front of us before the standard 6 set is like complete. So a few of these cards that are not great now could be good in the future. But for now, let's see the cards that exists out here that are even, that I consider like really good in the meta right now. So I put them all together into the Shaman deck, and yeah, I've got our classic Primal Fin Totem, Flame Tongue Totem. This could actually be something because with the even card deck, your hero power costs 1, so you're gonna hit the hero power on turn 1, and then you can follow up with Primal Fin Totem, which you probably follow up then with another hero power into Flame Tongue Totem. So that start looks okay. But where it falls apart is everywhere else. It's very difficult to play Murmuring Elemental with something else. This is actually played in Jade Shaman right now, but Jades are rotating out. So you'd have to play it with exactly Fire Plume Phoenix, which doesn't seem incredible. So it seems like Murmuring Elemental isn't very good. Fire Plume Phoenix, that's okay. But the problem with this Elemental synergy is you have just Fire Plume Phoenix, Fire Elemental, Grumble, and Calamos. So that starts to look like it falls apart. So we take out the synergy cards there. Calamos, the Grumble doesn't seem really that great. The Fire Elemental and the Fire Plume Phoenix are at least like decent cards. And what we're left with is 11 cards that are like really good. And then you have to fill in with all sorts of even garbage. So it seems like it would be quite a journey to make Merkspark Eel anywhere near good. Even though the card, in theory, if your deck were to be even cost only, it'd be a good card. Next up we have an Odd Lover for a Druid. Let's remind everyone that Baku the Gloom Eater upgrades your hero power. So the point of running the Odd Druid is pretty much to have your hero power deal 2 damage and gain 2 armor, which is admittedly pretty good. And then as an additional bonus, you get this Gloom Stag. 5 mana, 2/6, taunt, Battlecry. If your deck has only odd cost cards, gain +2/+2. Also a beast, so maybe some beast energy. In short, it's a 5 mana, 4/8 taunt. 5 mana 4/8 taunt isn't incredible, but it is good. Question is Gloomstag going to be enough to encourage players to run this odd druid deck? Well, a little bit of history. There are some neutral cards that have already got preconditions for 4/7 tauntish. We have Avian Watcher, which saw absolutely no play. You control a secret, game +1/+1 in taunt, 3/6 by default. And even better than that, and something that did see a little bit of play, is the Nesting Rock, 5 mana 4/7 if you control 2 other minions gain taunt. But that one was kind of okay to play by itself, seen in some hunter decks due to the beast tag. So let's see, how good is Gloomstag? I placed together the best druid cards for odd. Lesser Jasper Spellstone is very good when your hero power deals 2 damage and gains 2 armor. You can get this upgraded in a Jiffy. Greedy Sprite is really good because you play it on 3 and then it ramps you up to turn 5. Lone Champion is really good. It'll get the Taunt Divine Shield. I expect a lot of odd decks to just run Lone Champion. This guy's gonna come back, run back in force if odd decks are ever a thing. Dark Reaper is of course just really good. And then here's where you get a little bit more questionable. So we have to put in Starfall maybe in order to replace Swipe. Norish's standard card draw / mana ramp, but we're not sure where we're going with it. Druid's Claw is like a typical good card, but Got the Ancient of War, Malfurion. Oh, I was just playing with this, but this isn't actually that good. Ysera, it's like, where are we really aiming to go with this? The main problem I see with odd-even decks is that they lack a cohesive game plan, which makes sense because you only have half of the cards available to you in order to form a game plan. And this is just random good cards, which makes it a good arena deck, but maybe not so much for constructed, where the synergy is that you have 5 mana 2/2s, which Death Rattle summon Void Lords. Your compensation for running a good arena deck is essentially you get a 5 mana 4/8 taunt, and your hero power, you gain 2 attack and you gain 2 armor, which seems lackluster. Not to mention, when you play the Malfurion, you lose your +2/+2. That might actually be enough reason to not even run Malfurion. So, yeah. You miss out on a few good cards here and there by not being able to run the even cards. Next up though, to actually give a little bit of hope to this odd/even archetype. A deck that I had at least already looked into because I thought that Odd Mage was a valid way to go, since a lot of the elementals are odd, and Frostlich Jaina is odd, and a lot of the big spells are odd. And, not to mention, this card, Black Cat, is actually really strong in an odd deck, because the effect is strong. It's Azure Drake, except way better. It's a 3 mana 3/3, spell damage +1. Battlecry if your deck has only odd cost cards, draw a card. That's really good. So you put in those two in this deck, you put in your Baku, and then you just need one card in the expansion to be any good to fit into this deck, and then you have your 2 mana hero power, deal 2, Fire Blast. Seems good. It'll hold you over until you play Frostlich Jaina. I actually think this deck has some amount of potential. It carries over the big spell mage goodness, which has been tier 3 for a while. Makes a little bit of compromises, not that many. I think the structural integrity is still decent here. I'm looking forward to having a big spell in the expansion be odd, then that will fit really well into this deck. It actually has a cohesive game plan, unlike the other odd/even decks. You're playing elementals, you're controlling the board until you get to Frostlich Jaina, and the 2 damage Fire Blast really helps you get to Frostlich Jaina. Worth mentioning is that at least the Trailblazer, I'm not sure if she'll make the final cut, but yes, she shuffles an even card into your deck, which will turn off the Black Cats, but that's a pretty late game thing. But okay, fine, maybe at least doesn't belong here. The Tinkmaster Overspark is kind of a replacement for the polymorphs that you can't put into this deck, because you need to stop the Void Lords somehow. And then finally last, and least, Glittermoth. 5 mana 4/4 Battlecry Priest card. If your deck has only odd cost cards, double the health of your other minions. It's Mass Divine Spirit. Wow. Now the question is Glittermoth going to be the card that is way better than Divine Spirit? Because you can't run Divine Spirit in this deck, since that's an even card. I asked myself, would I run this, like, if this weren't even an odd deck only thing? And I came to the conclusion that it would still be kind of hard to justify. Stats are poor, costs a lot of mana, so you need to have the minion already out with a high health. It's pretty tough to pull off. Unlike Divine Spirit, which is cheap enough that you can cast it pretty readily, and you can combine it with other things. You compare this with Cabal Talon Priest, 3 mana 3/4. It's already giving +3 health to a minion. This thing just has 1 more attack. So let's look at how good it is, given that you have to run it in an odd-only deck. So I mean, of course you'd run Inner Fire in this deck, right? Probably. Northshire Cleric is as always good. Powered Shield is great. I've got Curious Swimroot, a fine 3-drop. Tar Creeper, that's a strong 1/5. Void Ripper is an interesting idea, since Glittermoth doubles all of your healths, and then you can Void Ripper to swap all of them. It looks like you're playing this in mainly a minion-based deck. And then after this, I started finding it very hard to find more cards. Because while Psychic Scream is good, you're probably playing this in a minion-based deck. Do you even play it? Probably not. This deck at least looks like it has a cohesive game plan. You're trying to play minions, you buff them with the Glimmermoth, you want them to stick on the board, and then maybe you flip them with Void Ripper, or you buff them with Inner Fire. I mean, you have Obsidian Statue, that seems reasonable, and you put in your Ysera, your huge health minions. You can't even Shadow Visions for Glittermoth, which is a big reason of why Divine Spirit decks are any good right now. But yeah, for Glittermoth to be good, especially if you're running these 9 costs, you have to play the 9 cost. Your opponent somehow has to not remove these, way late in the game, and then you play your Glitter Moth, and you have an Inner Fire and or Void Ripper, it seems really hard and unlikely, and probably the Divine Spirit Inner Fire version is going to just still be way better. Talon Priest is rotating out, by the way. Otherwise, it would be a great card in this deck. So in short, there are still, of course, a lot of cards to see, but you can kind of make an initial judgment based off of how much support there already is in these decks. Try not to fall too in love with making an odd or even deck unless you have a really specific game plan for the deck. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with an arena deck which you have a better hero power for. And the hero power buff is really good, and most of these Gloomstag and Mercspark Eel are a good upgrade. They're a strong minion, but maybe not enough of a reason to run only odds or evens. Except perhaps Black Cat, which is both a really strong card, and the odd mage already looked pretty decent.